From the moment he walked in, the atmosphere of the little cafe changed. Conversation slowed, laughter dimmed, and even the clatter of plates seemed to quiet itself. Everyone in the cafe feared him, the rude millionaire who always arrived at the same hour, sat at the same corner table, and left behind a trail of humiliation for anyone unlucky enough to serve him. No one dared to stand up to him. That was, until a new waitress, with no idea of his reputation, looked him in the eye and refused to bow. What happened next would change not only the cafe, but the millionaire's entire life. The man's name was Victor Harrington. He was the kind of man people only whispered about in small towns, a businessman who had clawed his way to the top, leaving countless ruined lives behind. His money was old, his manners were cold, and his words, sharper than knives. Victor owned half the property along the main street, including the cafe itself. That was the cruel irony. Every employee who served him technically worked for him, which made standing up to him nearly impossible. Every morning at 9 o'clock sharp, Victor entered wearing his tailored navy suit and polished leather shoes that echoed against the tiled floor. He never said, please, never said, thank you. Instead, he barked orders as if the staff were his servants. If the coffee was too hot, he would snap his fingers and say, "Are you trying to burn my tongue?" If it was too cold, he'd mutter loud enough for the entire cafe to hear, "Even machines could do better than you people." Sometimes, he would intentionally spill sugar on the table, just to watch the staff scramble to clean it. The staff hated it, but no one dared protest. They had families, bills, and jobs they couldn't afford to lose. The cafe's manager, Mr. Lawson, was a timid man in his 50s who always told the staff to just bear with it. He would say, "The man pays good rent, we can't afford to offend him." And so, for years, Victor's cruelty became a routine part of their mornings. But that changed the day a new waitress joined. Her name was Emily Carter. Emily was young, only 23, with a warm smile that seemed to light up the dimmest corners of the cafe. She had just moved to town after her mother's passing, desperate to start fresh. With no family left, she poured herself into work, grateful for any opportunity. She wasn't the type to bow to arrogance, life had already taught her resilience. But on her first day, no one warned her about Victor. That morning, when Victor entered, the regular staff quickly avoided his gaze. Emily, eager to impress, stepped forward with her notepad. "Good morning, sir," she said brightly. "Can I get you your usual?" Victor raised an eyebrow. "And who are you?" he asked sharply. "I'm Emily, the new waitress." She gave him a polite smile. "I'll be serving you today." He leaned back in his chair, eyeing her as if she were some unworthy intruder. "Fine. Black coffee. 2 sugars. Toasted bagel. And hurry. I don't have time to wait for amateurs." Emily felt her cheeks heat at the insult, but she forced herself to nod calmly. "Of course, sir. I'll be right back." The staff watched nervously as she carried his order. When she set it down, Victor immediately picked up the spoon and stirred his coffee. He took one sip, then slammed the cup down so hard the liquid sloshed over the rim. "Too bitter," he barked. "Do you even know how to brew coffee? This is disgusting." Emily froze. Her instinct was to apologize, but then she caught the look in his eyes. It wasn't disappointment, it was pleasure. He enjoyed belittling her. Something in her hardened. She took a slow breath and said softly but firmly, "There's nothing wrong with the coffee, sir. Perhaps you're just used to treating people poorly, no matter what they serve you." The entire cafe went silent. Forks hung midair. Even Mr. Lawson's pen slipped from his hand. No one had ever spoken back to Victor. Victor's eyes narrowed. "What did you just say?" Emily straightened her back. "I said the coffee is fine. But if you're determined to find fault in everything, perhaps you should try making it yourself." Gasps rippled through the cafe. Mr. Lawson rushed over, whispering urgently, "Emily, please. Don't." But Emily didn't back down. She met Victor's glare, unshaken. For a long, tense moment, it seemed Victor might explode. But instead, to everyone's shock, he leaned back in his chair and chuckled. It was a dark, humorless sound, but it was laughter nonetheless. "Well," Victor said slowly, "finally, someone with a backbone. You might just survive in this pathetic place after all." From that day forward, everything changed. Victor still came to the cafe, but he seemed oddly fixated on Emily. He tested her daily with harsh words, unreasonable demands, and cruel jabs. But Emily never cowered. She answered him with calm honesty, sometimes even humor, which left him speechless. The other staff began to admire her courage. They whispered, "She's not afraid of him," and slowly, they started standing a little taller too. Customers noticed as well. The cafe, once filled with quiet dread during Victor's visits, began to buzz again with conversation and laughter. Emily's defiance had broken the spell he cast over them. But what no one knew was that Victor carried a pain deeper than his cruelty revealed. Years ago, his wife had left him, taking their only son with her. Victor had buried himself in work, turning his grief into bitterness. Money had become his shield, arrogance his armor. He didn't know how to connect anymore. And when Emily looked him in the eye without fear, it reminded him of the humanity he had lost. One rainy morning, weeks later, Victor arrived soaked and unusually quiet. Emily approached as usual, but instead of barking orders, he said softly, "Just coffee. Please." Emily blinked in surprise. "Of course," she said, bringing it over. When she set the cup down, Victor didn't insult her. Instead, he stared at the coffee for a long moment before whispering, "Do you ever lose everything, Miss Carter?" Emily froze, hearing the cracks in his voice. "Yes," she admitted. "I lost my mom not long ago. That's why I'm here." Victor's eyes flickered with something rare, empathy. He nodded slowly. "I lost my family. Long ago. I suppose that's why I lash out." Emily's heart softened. She pulled out the empty chair and sat down, ignoring Mr. Lawson's horrified expression from across the room. "You don't have to keep punishing the world for your pain," she said gently. "People here aren't your enemies. Maybe they could even be your friends, if you let them." For the first time in years, Victor didn't have a retort. His gaze dropped, and he sighed heavily. That morning marked the beginning of a quiet transformation. Over the months that followed, Victor's cruelty faded. He began saying, "Thank you." He stopped making the staff scramble. Sometimes, he even left generous tips, something he had never done before. And though his sharp tongue remained, there was a softness beneath it, a man learning, slowly, to live again. The cafe flourished, becoming more than just a place for coffee. It became a symbol of resilience, kindness, and the courage to stand up for what's right. And whenever anyone asked what changed Victor Harrington, the answer was always the same: a new waitress who refused to be afraid. In the end, Victor wasn't just the rude millionaire everyone feared. He was a broken man who found healing because someone dared to treat him like a human being, not a monster. Emily's bravery didn't just transform him, it inspired everyone around her to find their own strength.